Hey everybody, welcome to McFarland Minutes. I'm Natalie McFarland, founder and president of McFarland Productions, director at Off Your Rocker Films, and your host. In these episodes, you can expect deleted scenes, in-depth campaign reviews, project highlights, marketing concepts, book reviews, and a deep dive into the creative process at Off Your Rocker Films. We'll also be covering invaluable lessons on mentorship, leadership, and the business of it all. We are so excited to be releasing our episodes every Sunday as your soft launch to Monday. Everybody, welcome to McFarland Minutes, your soft launch to Monday. This is step 7 in the 12-step creative process. If this is any sign of how my podcast is going to go for this episode, tis the 7th step in the 12-step creative process. We're talking about on-site. How do we handle a day on site as a production team for a film crew? We have already talked about the problem, ideation, goal determination, strategy, storyboarding, logistics. All of those are the last episode of each month preceding this one. So we are in July. So this is the 7th episode. If you haven't watched the other ones, make sure you watch them first. I've said this every time. So hopefully at this point, you guys have watched steps 1 through 6. So on site. We've done all the background. We've got the storyboard written. We've done all the logistics. Everyone knows what we're doing. We've tried to prepare for the unpreparable as much as possible. On site, we're here. We've made it with the crew. Everyone's made it to the location. I think for me, the first thing for on site, let me back up. 0.5 step, right, is make sure everything's charged and you have all your gear ready the night before at least, right? And step 2 is going to be production meeting. Or step 1, 0.5, whatever. Those are the first 2 steps.
I think you're still wrong.
You think I'm still wrong? What have I forgotten now?
You probably need a cup of coffee in there somewhere.
Oh, shoot, yeah. Oh, God. Multiple. Those just need to keep them coming, on site.
Which I know is kind of a joke, but I'm serious. Some of those audio guys, you don't get them a cup of coffee, they're not going to work today.
Oh man, yeah. It's the thing with it is like on-site shoots are incredible. They're also exhausting. Like on-site and sleep deprivation are synonymous. In such a good way, right? But it certainly can catch up with you. So coffee required, definitely. That's actually like step 0, maybe. Just plan on that.
I agree, though.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Charge.
Go for
Let's charge stuff the night before, even if it says 100, throw it back on there, right? I don't care.
Especially if it's been sitting in storage for a while, no one trusts that.
It is if you think a roller coaster will drop your stomach, it is the worst feeling to pop in that battery and have it say 6%. Yeah, it just, it's the worst.
Or card failure. That one also will give you a heart attack.
Or so many things, right? So many. We don't need to come up with everything that could go wrong. We already did that on the last podcast. Yes, you need to ensure that all of your equipment is in the right spot, charged, clean, all that good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Everybody knows what they're bringing the next day.
Yes, I believe that, right, you could shine up your lens while you're waiting for the client in the morning, whatever, but in general, right, let's do anything that we can the day before to take the load off of us tomorrow.
Yeah. That can be building rigs too, right? So like for the example of like the red, your Sony not so much, but the red, any of the Black Magics, good grief. Any of those like take you some time to build. If it is at all possible to build those the night before and then like just transport them built rather than, in pieces in your Pelican case like you have to travel with, that'll save you a lot of heartache in the morning. You might actually get breakfast if you build those rigs beforehand. But production meeting. So we try to do these usually surrounding breakfast, right? We try to do these between the film crew. A lot of times we will include like a client or something like that, at least at the initial production meeting. So they kind of know like how our flow will work day to day. But at the production meeting, we talk about, okay, the storyboards for that day, if there's more than one, or the storyboard for that day, right? We talk about expectations related to audio. We talk about expectations related to like where teams will be. We talk about logistical things like, hey, we're not going to be stopping for lunch until 2 p.m. today. So if you need a snack to go with you, pack yourself a snack from breakfast, right? Or maybe we won't stop at all that day. That is not ideal. No one tries to do that, but it does happen sometimes. How are we going to stay on time that day? Does everybody have the addresses? All of those things are things that we'll be talking through. We'll be going over like client names, any of the talent names, expectations of who's doing what, although most times we've already got that down, having worked together so many times. But those are all things that we're going to do there in the production meeting. What else do we do in the production meeting, Ryan? What did I miss?
I think from a production meeting, after each production meeting, right, there's then mini production meetings, kind of based on, I don't want to say expertise, but I would say focus area, right? So after that, the camera operators will probably have a production meeting saying, hey, white balance is going to be here, shutter speed here, frame rate here, right? Stuff like that. And audio guys are probably saying, all right, are you shooting, or what do you call it? What do you call recording audio?
Recording.
Recording, yeah. I so naturally said shooting. But are you recording at 41 or 48 or right, whatever? Just, that's things that as a camera operator, I don't really need to know what audio you're recording at as long as you have it under control. But the other audio guy likely needs to know. And so I think you have those little mini production meetings after that. And then also there is the what we talked about yesterday, the eventual meeting of the clients and the client's clients, right? Which doesn't need to be involved in the production meeting because they'll likely just kind of get overwhelmed and stressed out. But you need to go meet with them before you just jump into an interview, right? They need to know who they're talking to. And it'd be better if they didn't have strangers behind the camera and holding microphones over their head. We'd like everybody to know who everybody is.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
guess I'd call that an introduction.
Yeah, my number one thing when we get on site is how quick can I get out of that vehicle and meet that client, right? Or the talent that's going to be on screen. And so, introducing myself, I try to bring off this very relaxed mentality, try to give them a little bit of the lay of the land on what we're doing, make sure they're aware of like where we're going from there. If we didn't get the chance to chat with them ahead of time, get familiar with maybe anything that's changed since the last time we talked, and then really come up with a plan for that. And really, my number one job there is make a friend, because I'm about to put them in front of a big crew of people and maybe clients and maybe other observers, right? And so I immediately am evaluating, is this a person who's going to be comfortable talking with me, and what adjustments do I need to make to our team, to our crew, to the people standing, observing, whether it's the client or others? Is there any adjustment that I need to make? And sometimes that means I politely kick as many people out of the interview recording area as possible, if that's part of the shoot for this particular setting. So I usually try to do things too that like kind of make them comfortable with me, right? So like, I am not overly formal. I'm not overly like rigid. I don't try to give them too many rules up front, right? People can really only remember like 3 things that you talk about, right? So you try to kind of set yourself up for success, particularly if there's going to be an interview involved, but any kind of acting with a non-acting individual, right? You try to make them comfortable. That's my first step once we get to on-site. Once I've gotten a chance to check in with the client, meanwhile, back at the ranch, the rest of the crew has probably set their stuff up, and as they're ready to go, they come over and introduce themselves as well. So the subject has met literally everybody on the crew by the time we get rolling. So we also get a sense of like what order the plan's going to go in, right? So ideally, we don't do interview first. Ideally, we shoot a bunch of B-roll first, get to know each other, a little more comfortable with each other, and then do interview at the end. Gives people time to just get comfortable with the crew, and cameras running around and audio being shoved in your face and me clipping and unclipping microphones to you, right? So, or our audio crew doing that too. So yeah, try to do that first and then interview. But as far as production day goes, I honestly think if you've done steps 1 through 6 well, and you've worked with a team frequently enough, and you've done some pre-calls with your own team, and the production meeting went well, shoot, there's not a whole lot that doesn't just roll, right? We all kind of know what's being expected. It's the director's job to help answer any questions and make sure that the vision is coming through. But really, it's a rehearsed choreography at that point, I feel like.
I agree with you, right? I think that this is a big if, but if you have done those previous steps to a T, right? You have completed them with intention and things are going as planned, then you're right. This is kind of just doing all of it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not having to actively fix and solve problems while you're out there, right? If everybody is on the same page and we know what we're doing and we're sticking to the plan, then it should ideally be a well-oiled machine. Is it always
Mm-hmm.
going to be that way? No, but I think it should be that way, right? And that's why we're making this to create it to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think I think after you have done introductions and we're on to, and we probably should have established what type of shoot or set we're on, right? That would have helped. We've talked about interviews and such, so we can kind of stick to that. But at the point that we're then interviewing, um, I think I think what's important to me, right, is being able to establish the consistency with what we've done, all the work that we've done beforehand, right? So I guess I would call it kind of double checking, right, or checking your work, but I don't think you need to put up a big poster of your storyboard and your mood board and all your logistic planning, but
In fact, too
you,
much.
yeah, you should be able to maybe check in or ask yourself or somebody, hey, this looks on brand with what we're going for, right? Or hey, this type of color or this sound is what we had established previously, right? And I think it sometimes can be easy. I'm trying to think of a good example better than what I'm thinking of right now, but I'll just use this example. If we recently went on that shoot in Texas, right? If we were to get there and there was a pool of sea turtles, you could consider me somewhere else, right? I would be filming the sea turtles. That's not something that we planned for, but it would be super easy for me to get distracted by those sea turtles and start
Mm-hmm.
like getting off course, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes just kind of taking a second to check and say, hey, I know that we're here shooting and here's something to shoot, but this is not necessarily why we're here, right? So
Yeah.
as you progress through the interview or the commercial or the acting or whatever it is that you happen to be shooting, I think it's crucial that you're making sure you're shooting what you're supposed to be shooting, no matter how many distractions are kind of flowing around you.
Yeah, going off of that too, I think the other piece of this too is like we all know the storyboard, but did we get it shot for shot, right? Like, are we inadvertently going to miss some little chunk of the story and now we can't quite tie the story together, right? So making sure that at the end of the day or at the end of the segment of shooting, I guess, at the end of the segment of shooting, did we really get everything we needed to fill the storyboard? Because that can happen kind of easy on site. It seems like it's just a checklist thing, but unless you're looking at the checklist, sometimes you'll miss one, right? There was some little critical thing that we needed to do. Maybe part of the story was actually like starting the tractor, or maybe there was a specific shot we needed where you're driving by irrigation, right? And like because irrigation was really a big part of the story, but we needed it in there visually in order for the thing to really land, or whatever the thing is, right? Like I'm pulling random examples here, but having someone that is doing that check off, making sure we don't get distracted by shiny objects. And number two, making sure that we actually did get the list that we intended to get.
Right, because
That's
it
huge.
it could be something as small as getting filming the subject getting out of the car, right? You could hold like while you're
The
shooting,
hand on the
right?
ignition.
Right. While you're shooting, unless you have like the list pulled up, this might be something you're missing because what we're focusing on is the end of Larry's day, right? And so that's where my mindset is. We're filming the end of Larry's day. But if you get him getting into the car and going somewhere, and then you don't get him getting out of the car, that might be a little too jumpy afterwards. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be pretty difficult to still have that piece in if you don't have shot 16 in your shot list, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that you look back on and you say, wow, I really wish that somebody would have just
How
reminded
the
me
heck
to
did we miss that? You know?
right?
Like,
And it's just it's a huge face palm, and you want to ignore those. And no matter how many times you looked at it beforehand and said, "Yep, this is the next shot," then we get him getting out of the car, right?
mm-hmm.
Something that has happened to me multiple times is we're filming Larry in the car, right? And we get that shot, and I go back to watch it, and I'm watching it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm digesting it, feeling it. At that time, Larry has gotten out of the car,
You're
and the
chimping.
director says, "Hey, we good to go?" And I go, "Oh yeah, let's go," right?
Yeah.
And I just completely missed it.
Didn't realize. Yeah.
Didn't even realize, right? And that's why it's helpful, I think, to just have somebody make sure you're staying on course.
Yeah. I know I said that storyboarding is the fun part, but let me just tell you that being on site with that crew, especially when things are going well and meeting the client and running around and sleep deprivation, the whole thing this is the fun part, right? This is the part where we really get to make the memory, feel the thing, create the story. There's no better part of this whole process than being on site with the team. And man, we've got a good one, right? We've got some really cool people that are on this team, and being able to do it together is a really big deal. And I think that it's kind of cool to watch on site, you know, especially the times where I truly get to be a director. I think the most fun thing to me is when, like, I'm like, "Hey, did we?" And the answer is, "Yep." You know, before I even get the sentence out. And the cool thing about that is, like, I didn't even have to think about that happening. I had to worry about my one piece. And I think when you've got a team that has their one piece that really gets that, that's a big deal, right? And it really takes a production from cumbersome, potentially missing something, to something that we know out the other side. I can confidently say we are going to execute this story, right? And so, like, to all of you out there who's like, oh, one guy could do this, right? One guy with a camera and a microphone could do this. Yeah, sure. We've been that guy. I've been that guy personally many, many times. But could we do it a whole hell of a lot better with 6 of us, who all of us have their jobs, or 8 of us or 10 of us or whatever it takes for that particular job? Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're looking to cut corners, it's not always in the number of people, right? And I think that's something that comes up often. Like, how can we have fewer people on site? Okay, let's have the right number of people on site, not the mentality of fewer people, right? Fewer maybe, but only because it's the right number of people. It can be done with one guy, but can it be done with one guy well? Passable, probably.
The analogy I find myself using over and over and over again is a kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think a kitchen analogy fits great here also. Could a meal be made by one person? Yes, of course. There are many meals
Sure.
that are made by one person. But I don't know how many Michelin star kitchens you see being ran by one person. Um, I would
I
I
don't
would
know how many you
wager.
see at your local diner, right? You don't.
So that is my favorite analogy to use, because there are so many ways that go into it. There's so many different ways that you can compare it to a kitchen, right? But this is, I think, a fantastic way that,
Mm-hmm.
especially if what you're doing is creating something unique, something tailored to a certain audience or group of people, right? And you want it to be done to a certain degree at a certain time, and then you want it
In a
just
time constraint
exactly
with this
how you
one
want it,
person.
right? You've got a nut allergy over here, right? Which it could be anything, any sort of thing, right? Uh, you're going to be better off having people that know exactly what they're doing, working with people who also know exactly what they're doing, who also happen to be good friends, and are ready to just fit your order to exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want it executed well, having it's just you can't have one guy or gal, right? You can't have one person that is excellent at every piece of a film production, right? Something, even if you do know every piece of a film production, you've worked on every piece, right? You are likely not the expert in every piece. And also, if you're doing them all, you are splitting your attention between them all, right? My number one thing is video, audio, director. Like, we should really be running those as separate things because those are very different skill sets. And ideally, you don't do that with one person per section. You can, but you're running a risk, right? You don't have secondary angle. You don't have backup audio. You don't have like the number of things that can go wrong with just one thing happens, or you'll miss a catch on something that would have been a great shot, especially if it would have been a great shot if, right, you would have been in this little different angle or slightly different light or whatever it is, right? Having that crew, right, where they've worked together a lot, don't try to mismatch a bunch of people that have never done this together. That's going to show up really bad. Number two, that they know their own positions very well and they can focus on the one thing, right? And number three, you've got somebody who is that relationship between the film crew and the talent. You have someone that's tying the two ends together is huge. But yeah, so I think as far as on-site production goes, that kind of covers it for me. I mean, there's lots that happens on this day, but what are you thinking about, Ryan?
I mean, aside from that, I think in general, you need to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Oh, sorry, I just dropped this. Like we talked about. I've been playing with a lens cap. Uh, I think you need to make sure everybody's on the same page, and this has got small detail, but at the end of the day, I think, and not at the end of the day like a phrase. I mean, genuinely at the end of the shoot day, right? Celebrate what's worth celebrating, right? If your team did a good
Yeah.
job, acknowledge that you guys did a good job and celebrate it. I think that that's sometimes, right, we talked about like the lack of sleep and the eating at 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. and it just, right, it's stressful, it's hard, it's tiring. I think it's worth celebrating when it's done well and it's done properly. And I think that it boosts team morale, it makes everybody feel better. I think that some of the best times that I've had on an actual like shoot day is the end of the day when the crew is together and we're eating dinner, just talking about the day, right? It's just a nice kind of little bow that goes on top of shoot day, and I think that my experience as somebody in this creative field would not be the same without that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a wrap on episode 7, or not episode 7, the 7th step of the 12-step creative process. We still need a jingle, Ryan. The
We'll get it.
12-step creative process. So problem, ideation, goal determination, strategy, storyboarding, logistics, on-site. Next step will be data management, which is how the heck do we get all this stuff organized, home, doubled, and it's all safe and nothing gets overwritten by accident. That'll be the 8th episode, end of August. So join us again for the 12-step process at the end of August. Thanks for being here.